So here we are gathered with the elementary library media specialists, and we're here at Ruth Hill, and I'm Ann Grainer from Ruth Hill. We also have
Joe Nates
from
Moreland, sorry.
and
Tina Allen from Eastside.
Sherry Copeland Brooks
and
Amanda Vick.
Amanda Vick from Western is here washing her hands, and Tracy Drake is on her way. So we are beginning. Welcome. So the first thing that, because I spoke with my principal yesterday with the TEKS evaluation update, he basically said that the only TEKS part of our evaluation is that they're using the platform. And so what we were evaluated, like this year I was evaluated using paper, and I had to put what a goal was down.
Mhm.
Did y'all have to do that? Did you have to put a goal down?
I think at the
They
beginning
was
of the
supposed
year.
to.
It was
but
at the
I'm not
very-
sure
yeah.
I ever
At
did.
the
It was-
beginning of the year.
It was at the beginning of the year. So
Yeah.
basically, you had to sign off that you came to the orientation, and I forget what we're called. We're part of the
Service.
Support service.
yeah, and so we're certified, but so it's basically
Student support.
yeah. So what I did on paper will actually be done in a digital format with the TEKS platform. So there'll be a form just like what I filled out by hand, and I'll go to the first meeting of the year where
Okay.
they do the orientation, and I'll click on my.
I actually did one
Platform.
online this year.
Did you?
So-
Okay.
But it wasn't through TEKS. It was just a form that
Right.
she had us
Yeah.
fill out,
Okay.
But it was
It's
online.
coming back to me now. It's just
Yeah.
because it was at the beginning of the year. I forgot all about it.
Okay. So I guess it was that form that's going to be. Oh, you're fine. It's that form that's going to be on.
It's gonna be on the
on
TEKS
TEKS.
website.
And it's
Okay.
only because they can put everything together instead
Okay.
of having
Okay.
that
So
digital
it's
form
still going to
there.
be meet standards.
Yeah,
or whatever,
exactly.
Seeds or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
everything. The
Okay.
evaluation's the same,
Okay.
and it's just that.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Take that stress
We
off
don't
of
have
me.
the
Thank you.
observations that the teachers have to have.
At least that's what he said.
Well, I don't see how we could because we don't have standards.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're not on the report card. I mean, how can they?
Right.
We don't have the kids long enough to be able to teach them to show growth.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to be held accountable for that.
yeah,
Mhm.
and especially when we are by ourselves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
So anyway, I think when we heard TEKS, we were all like, you know.
yes,
Mhm.
I freaked out.
Yeah. So no, it's only the platform.
Okay.
It's only what's going to
Yay.
hold our evaluation.
Can I
Good
change the
news. I love good
subject?
news.
But we're kind of on the same thing. These, those jobs, the media specialist job.
Job
Like,
alliance,
yeah,
the
meetings.
consortiums.
Have y'all been to any of those?
I went to
Are
one
those
this
like
year.
not
The
this
second
year?
one
Usually
got
I go
The old
canceled.
ones we used to have when they just called
Yeah.
them the.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the same thing.
The course-
Mhm.
Okay.
The one in January got canceled.
I don't think
And
enough people
there's
signed
one
up.
March 28th. It was the
Yeah,
27th
that's what she sent
originally,
out.
and now that's moved to the 28th. So
Yes, and I look at the agenda and it doesn't.
This one for
I'm
the
not
28th.
going. No,
Yeah,
it's
you know,
not.
It's
I
got to
guess
rock
that's
my
just
socks
it,
for
is
me to
that
take
I
it.
look at the agenda.
It's going to be much more media.
And if
Yeah.
there's
And
nothing there that
yeah.
pertains to me or
Well, I
something
think
I've
Katie's
already
having a hard
listened to,
time because she's not a media specialist. She's having a hard time coming up with topics. So we need to email her, let her
Hmm.
know what we want, and then she will
Okay.
find people to come or
Yeah.
send out and say, "Hey, is anybody an expert on this and want to present?"
Yeah,
So
Okay.
that's good.
All
Do you
right.
want
I
to send?
presented at the first one this year.
Yeah.
I took her place because she was going to talk just to fill up time.
Oh, gosh.
And I said, no, let me do something. And
Good.
so it was
Yeah, but
after
it
I
shouldn't
went
be that
to,
hard to
we
come
went
up
to
with
Right.
topics, I think.
Right.
the conference.
Georgia ETC or
Yeah. Was it? No,
or
it
different?
was before that.
Joe, do you want to send out an email to the library media specialist just saying, hey, this is an opportunity to, have a topic presented that you might be interested in, or that you actually want to present, and so that you can gain exposure in starting to become an expert in that area.
And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get.
right.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
signed up to present at GAETC next year. So we'll see if I get
Mhm.
it. I'm excited.
What are you
Oh.
presenting?
Like the history of technology, like to show how far we've come, and then technology to the future, and then how we can take what we have today, technology, and use it in the media center, like
Mhm.
maker spaces kind of thing.
Okay.
So it all
Yeah.
kind of. Remember, I went.
Yeah, you were showing me. You had that. You
that's
were
what I
toying with
presented.
it. Yeah,
yeah,
great.
and everybody really liked it. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna
I'm
go for
going
it.
Good.
and see.
venture out.
So I
Good.
teach that to all my kids at the end of the year after testing is over, and it's kind of a fun time.
Okay.
So we go over, like I show them the very first computers that were ever made that filled up huge rooms, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
kind of show the progression of it, and then also show the different how the mouse has progressed over the
Mhm.
years as well. And then I have found a couple of videos on YouTube that show technology of the future, what supposedly it's supposed to be like in 2018 next year.
Mhm.
We're supposed to be able, there's prototypes out now, but they're supposed to be for sale next year. Transparent cell phones.
Cool.
And
that
that's,
it's on
yes.
ETC, didn't it? That was neat.
And then your iPads and tablets and things will eventually
Mhm.
it'll get to that. So everything will be
When you say
transparent.
transparent, you can
See all
See,
that
all
stuff.
yes.
gadgets.
I don't
and
know
everything
what the
working.
benefit
Like
of
the
that is,
panels
but
in
it's
them and-
it's
Yeah.
kind of neat. Like if you hold up
Yeah.
your cell phone,
Probably
people would
distract
be
you.
able to see what is on your side from the other side because
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
completely transparent.
Okay.
Fascinating. Good.
Yeah, it's really cool. So
Yeah, so I think that whole sense of branching out, trying new things, whether you're presenting, and so I'm going to move into the next part of our agenda, and that is just this whole library space. And I wish I had my remote. I'm not sure. I might be at home. So when I got here, yes, there was the card catalog over there. There was the huge circulation desk, and that whole area over there, I think, was pretty much off limit for kids. And so I knew that I wanted to do a lot of different groups and different things like that. And so by being able to get rid of the big chunky stuff, we're working on getting rid of the tables and the chairs and swapping them out. And so my whole question or kind of what I've been trying to figure out along with what lessons to teach is how to create this space for our Ruth Hill students. And we know that the students do not have the background knowledge, and the career options, are very limited in their mind, and just that application of the content to real world. And so it was like, okay, so you've probably read about space being the third teacher, and so I'm like, okay, the library space is the third teacher. And I guess in the library, the first teacher is the teacher or the media specialist and the students and the staff. The second teacher would be the information, the collection, and the third teacher is the space. And it's like, all right, so how can I create this space? What can I do so that when kids come in, they're already engaging in the information. They're already making connections to the community. And then I also, with that, the connection is really that connected learning and how to make it so that it's inquiry driven, so that it's kind of like a challenge, so that it's not just, I've got my books here and, I've got my presentation and got space over there, to do hands-on activities, which is great and fine. But I'm thinking, because we're chronically failing, that I want to have more so that when they come in, it's just kind of like something just takes over them. So that's where, and my first step with genrefying, this is what led into this next thing.
Can I tell you, I have undertaken that.
Oh, you've started it?
It's wonderful, but oh Lord, it's about to kill me. But
Yeah.
I have kids that come in and they're putting stickers on. I ordered all my labels. They're
Yeah.
putting the labels on there for me. And one of them said, Miss Vic, if we didn't come in to help you, how would you ever get this done? I'm like, that's exactly.
Oh my
what
God, never get it
I
done.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I really wouldn't.
Oh, that
So-
is awesome.
But I have seen a lot of books circulated that were not, and then I was able to weed a lot.
Right.
But a lot that weren't checked out before. are.
Right.
So anyway, that's
Yeah,
the squirrel trail.
Right.
Sorry.
And it's the type of thing, it's like, does this make sense for me, or does this make sense for the library, that I'm in? And so, so the reason why I wanted to present this to you all is I really want your feedback about what I'm envisioning, and tell me what you think is good about this new vision, and then tell me what you think might be challenges. Okay. All right. So I started to think about that whole, and I know when I was at Carrollton High School, I was wanting to put, historical fiction next to the historical nonfiction. And so that they could see the connections and make that, that leap from where that information came from to write this story. And so what I looked at doing was, and I went around and looked at kind of all my little subject headings and things. And I was like, okay, what if I made themed clusters and just clustered and created like these integrative centers, and I came up with like 6 kind of overarching. And most of my collection fits into this. I think there might be some that doesn't, which is just like genreification, you kind of start it. And so what I'm looking at doing, this is the floor plan right there. So I'm looking at these 6 clusters, and in each cluster, you'd have the fiction that connects to that cluster, the nonfiction, the biographies, and then books on careers for that. And then you would also have space for display space so that local organizations could help do a rotating display. You could also have hands-on activities. Everything would be mobile. And then there could be outreach projects such as our Soul Hope project that's back behind you. And so when I started to look at kind of like what are my big areas, investigate nature an example would be, all the animal books, all the biomes, the weather, kind of all of that area. And an example from learn from the past, of course, history, etc. But that would incorporate getting the Noonan Historical Society to do a rotating display. There are different historical groups. There's the African American one that are local, and then connecting it to some of the national organizations, and then being able to also have like an interactive display screen in each area so that they can click on and see a video, or they can click on and see someone from that who has a career in that field where they're talking about, but there's a variety. And being able to fund this with some big donors in the community, and maybe some national organizations, because each one, it's almost like when you're going to seek donations, that if you can get them in their sweet spot. And so, for instance, there's with the Noonan Coweta Historical Society, there are a couple donors that they have that I think I can approach with this and just tell them and share, okay, we're looking at creating, this learn from the past. So it's almost like having a mashup of the library and a child discovery center, but it's in this one space, and it's where the students will be able to learn about your organization, but also you will be participating in the display area. And so in order to do this, to make history come alive, and even if we could get some costumes, hanging on the side of it to get this to come alive, it would require X amount of money. But so, because to me, I want that connection, the kids to connect to the community in these different areas, and for the community to connect to the kids. And so the 6 areas are get active, which is all about sports, recreation, but it's also health and wellness. Express yourself, all the arts, and then explore the world and beyond. That, of course, is the culture, but and beyond would be space. But also looking at, with the space, having science fiction would be the fiction, science fiction. And then also the worlds of fantasy, because for them to see this whole sense of what makes a society, what causes problems, in a society, or how our relationships form. So I'm looking at chunking those together. Solve a mystery, definitely, mystery books, but also our crime investigation. And I'm thinking a law firm might be able to help fund that one. But this is just something that it's like, I've been wanting to create these dynamic, like interactive centers. And so this is where I am with it. Had a couple of vendors come in and just start to look at what kind of furniture, because I need to get bids to know how much money I need to go get.
Right.
But I just wondered what y'all thought. What do you think about this?
Never thought of anything like this before, but I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it looks like in theory it
How
would be
easy
wonderful.
do you think it will be for the kids to know where to go to find a certain book?
Right.
based on-
With our signage, I have a friend who works with she does exhibit work with a National Park Service. And I think with the signage, so like say if you have Get Active, you would have
Your little
What
sub-
topics
are
sub-
underneath
sub-
that.
okay.
Yeah. so that they would know. And then of course, on Destiny, the location, it would say Get
Do
Active.
they use
sports.
Destiny or not?
Not really, but part of it, is that I haven't really pushed it just because our collection's so small,
Yeah.
that they, like yours, it's like, hello.
Mhm.
It's really just space though.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a lot of, I mean, the
You
collections,
don't have a whole
obviously,
bunch of books. Are you used to not when we first came, but you got more now?
oh, we have a lot more
Oh, you
now.
do.
But there's still a lot of open space, which is one reason I want to genreify because I
Yeah.
have the room to do it.
Right. You
Mhm.
do. You
All
really
the
do.
shelves and
Yeah.
in fact, I started doing my holiday books when I was pulling them for the holidays.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not putting these back
Right.
on the shelf.
Just put them right there.
I'm gonna make my seasonal shelves over on those low shelves that are
Mhm.
over by the wall.
Yeah.
And then I haven't done my signs or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just a start. And I've already kind of done some gentrification and
Yeah.
nonfiction. That
And you
you
can
saw.
see my temporary signs of
Mhm.
little pieces of
But
paper.
it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
It
Do you
takes time.
think something like this would help with the, because again, my goals are to really help them engage in the information in the topics to be able to gain background knowledge, so that like when they're over and learn from the past and they're sitting there, they're able to pull, the fiction, the nonfiction, if they're creating their own fictional story, that they can just pull and see what's there. Or if there's a display, from the Historical Society that is about the quilts that they have, that they're able to actually see some of that and then they can incorporate it. In other words, do you think that this is something that could work? And then also, what challenges do you think there are? Or what do I need to think about as I'm kind of trying to figure all this
I would
out?
think trying to monitor it all might
Mhm.
be a problem because
Mhm.
it's very spread out
Mm-hmm.
on the
Mhm.
different.
Well,
Being
it seems
able to
spread out, but it's a
see,
small
but
space. It
Yeah.
won't be as spread out as it looks
As it
because the
looks on
space
there.
itself is not that big.
Right, right. Yeah.
To me, a challenge
Mhm.
is still it is for children to still see the difference between fiction and nonfiction.
Right.
When you're putting them together side by side,
Right.
that's still understanding that this is fiction,
Right.
this is nonfiction,
Right.
and that's just a challenge.
Right. Well, one thing I want to do is that be two different shelves or whatever, but to have, the color coded.
Right.
So all nonfiction is that kind of bright green,
Right.
So that visually
Mhm.
they get it. And then fiction all have the F on it, whatever. But no,
Right.
you're right. No,
Right.
it's something visual.
Well, but that's what it takes.
Yeah.
It's with whatever you do on the spine labels.
Right.
It's something that you do to make that really stand out.
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
I think that
so
bright
that-
green.
Yeah, so that's different for them. I mean, I think as long as they can see that, I don't see a problem with that making sense. I think, the hardest part is that the kids that you serve, much like the kids that I serve,
Mhm.
just don't have the background knowledge that
Right.
Mhm.
you would
Mhm.
need
This
in
is
order to
a
understand.
positive with it is it is a good way to expose them more
Mhm.
to things that they're not used to
That
hearing
they're not
about or
whether they're not going to
seeing.
see otherwise.
No.
Right, right. And the connections to the communities, like for Get Active,
Mhm.
to have the YMCA to help either sponsor or help create with a display, or, I think there's such a potential.
Well, there's a great potential for you to really reach out into the community and pull the community in.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the best
Yeah.
things in all
Okay.
of your thought to do in order to help make it all
Right.
tie into
Right.
the world around them.
Exactly. It's not that, we're all segregated. It's like there is an integration, of a person in their community. And how does that do that?
And our kids they don't get it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't get that, like you said, with the background
Yeah.
knowledge. They
Yeah.
just don't
So
get
this
it.
might be a visual.
But they're not, I mean, half of our kids have never even been to downtown Atlanta. I
Right.
mean, they just don't have the world sense.
Right.
I think in theory it would be great. Now, what
Okay.
kind of shelves are these?
Yeah.
Like,
Those are
have you
the-
seen this on in a
They look
magazine or
like the
something?
ones
Yeah.
Andy has.
Yeah.
And
There's
his
some curved.
modular.
Yeah. The modular. They're mobile.
You can move them around. I'd love to.
They're
have
short,
those.
right? They're not.
One is
tall.
42 inches. I was talking to someone recently. One's 42, one's 48. And I
I'd
was
probably stick with a 42 simply
Yeah.
because otherwise you lose your kids.
yeah.
In
was-
this small space too.
Yeah, I was at Andy's school over winter break, Andy Clemens, and it didn't seem too short. I mean, it seemed fine. But now I'm a
What's
little
his
shorter.
library like?
It's big.
Well, it's a huge space.
It's
I mean, you tell that one.
huge.
They're trying to get a lot of money from University of Georgia or
Mhm.
wherever. Where is he close to?
He's
He's
in-
next to
He's
it.
right next
UGA.
to where the
Okay,
graduate
yeah.
students live.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure
But he doesn't have an assistant, but he
But
He's-
he
gets
but
a lot of
does because he
volunteers.
has so many students.
Right, I mean, but in terms of the book, anyway, it
Now,
was
what
so
school is
fascinating.
it? I mean, this is the guy that,
Barrow.
Vera.
Barrow.
remind me, this is the guy that,
Oh, yeah, the
That came
the
and
camp.
presented over the
Mhm.
summer.
Yeah, and he's coming back too.
oh, God,
Yeah.
I need to go.
Yeah.
He
I wasn't able to-
messaged me on Facebook and asked me what he should talk about.
Oh,
So I gave him some.
Good.
Well, we should talk about
What's his
gentrification
school
since he
now?
went
School?
through
He
that.
is
Since-
doing
That's
that.
what I
I mean,
told him. I said, we need to
Since he
know
went
the
through that
steps.
after,
You
because
need
he
to
did
tell
that
us.
after
Yeah.
he came. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
He is going to talk about that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great topic
Right.
for him to explore and
What's
talk about, gentrification.
Did you show him about future ready libraries or something? Because I saw something where it was listed what he's
I'm
talking
sure he's
about.
going to talk about that because he's.
Risa already has it listed what he's talking
Mhm.
about. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me move on to the
Sign up
next
for that one.
thing.
Coming up in June.
Yeah, it's sometime in June.
So this is the Lexile levels discussion. And I've got the different slides. And I was trying to remember. No, no,
She's not.
I
But
just,
you
I
spoke with
spoke
her.
with Karen. Yeah,
Karen
she was
came.
here. She was here for a meeting.
Oh,
And so, yeah. So basically what Karen said, and then we can look at, did you see what did Jessica send this to everyone? Or,
Mm-mm.
okay, so I'll have that up there. Y'all can look at that.
I saw her email.
Yeah, she did send an email, but I don't remember all of it.
Okay.
Oh, you can,
It's June 15th.
Okay.
So basically well, I'll let you finish. Trying to,
Well, some of what they've been able to come up with at her school is
Mhm.
what I need to happen at mine.
yeah. We're now reading Jessica's email.
Yeah.
I have
Everybody
that second
good?
paragraph conversation all the time.
And I'll go ahead and
We don't do that tomorrow.
Well,
Well, we
it
do
has
the
taken
AR
over
levels, and I
everything at
hate
my
when they
school.
say
I mean, when you're a
behind the
focus
book,
school, you don't get to
they
avoid
choose
Lexile.
over.
did y'all read April Young's and then Amanda? I don't know if yours went to the whole group, but
I think it did.
It did.
I don't know. Did April's go?
Can tell.
April's did too.
Oh, okay, great. All right. So basically,
Yeah, I
what
read yours too, Amanda.
what Karen
We
said,
trains derailed, let's just say that.
Did she didn't see this information, did she?
she did not see this. No.
Well,
But-
can I just address, this is where it came from. It came from me. I really wanted to talk about Lexile
Mhm.
simply because at my school, there's a couple of things. The books have not been labeled Lexile, but yet now we must read in our Lexile. And so third grade in particular has taken that to heart. And those kids spend 15 minutes at least on Destiny trying to find books and then going to find them on the shelf because, you can use Destiny to do that.
Because it does give them.
Because it does give them the Lexile, and that's, all well and good. The higher level readers, they're telling me, well, my teacher says I have to get a book that's between 950 and 1100. You're in third grade. Do you know
Right.
what those books are? I
Right,
mean, really, that's not appropriate.
right.
I haven't gotten my teachers to understand yet that higher level readers really just need to do exactly what it was that Jessica said, where you're reading on grade level and up. There's no need to
To limit them.
know.
And to put a number on it.
There's
Mhm.
not.
It drives me crazy.
I can live, and they can get 3 books. And so for the most part, they just have to get one that's within their Lexile, and they're taking AR tests on them in third grade. We just got AR back this year, and that's been another issue because we're paying for AR, but yet 5th grade doesn't use it at all. Not at all. 4th grade,
Why are they not using it?
because they're using Read Theory and they're using Newsella.
Okay.
And so they're not
A lot of other
actually,
sites and stuff.
they're not actually reading books.
You're just reading.
They're
Just read a
reading
bunch of
online.
articles and stuff.
Oh.
To get ready for milestones.
Well, yeah,
Mhm.
which is another
Mhm.
conversation in
Yes,
and of itself, I think. So I had really tried to avoid the whole labeling thing
Mhm.
because, heck, my books still have AR labels on them from years past, and I haven't done any of that for years because I didn't have to. never took them off because, well, really, who
Because
has
you
the
thought,
time
well,
to do
Who has
that?
the time and
Well,
the
and you
help
thought
to do it?
again,
Right, I mean, really,
and
who
here
has
you are
the time
again
to do
back
that?
using it again, so then you would have had to put the
Right,
labels back on.
but in asking my teachers, what would you really rather have labeled? You know, we've had colored dots on them for AR.
Mhm.
Well, what would you rather those colors represent, Lexile or AR? Well, now that they're pushing Lexile, they'd really rather them be, well, half and half. A little over half said Lexile, and then the rest of them said AR.
But see, in 2
5
years from now, they'll be
yes,
on to
exactly.
something
Well,
That's
else.
exactly
and-
my thought.
And well, and the hard part is that as you look, I mean, there are a fair number of books that have AR tests that don't have a Lexile level. I mean,
That aren't Lexile, yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's,
Because Lexile was not ever intended to be used for fiction. It was only intended to be used for
For
nonfiction.
nonfiction.
well, and books that I've had for years, you know, if it's a 10-year-old book, it may not have gone through that process. There may not be a Lexile measure for that book. And
Just like there's some books
but
that
yet
don't
they
have
can
an
still
AR
take a
test.
quiz on it. I mean, really, there's no reason they can't read it and quiz for AR if they want to. But yet the kids don't know what to do. And they're like, oh, it doesn't have a Lexile.
Yeah, so I can't read it. Well, that's like books that don't have an
Or-
AR quiz.
Or what
I'm not gonna read it because I don't have an
Yeah.
AR quiz.
Right. You know, because they can get 3, this is what they're doing. The teacher says you must quiz on one book this week. Okay, well, my level has to be 750 or somewhere in that
Okay.
range. So they go find a picture book
Mm.
that fits that. And then with the picture book, they check out Harry Potter because that's what they really are
Yeah.
wanting to read.
Mhm.
Hmm.
They quiz on the picture book.
Mhm.
I just don't get. I mean,
And I don't know, I don't know that any of that's really going to help their,
mm-mm.
you know, if you're looking towards trying to increase their reading levels,
Right,
the primary thing you need to do is give them time to read.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
Teach them how to find books that they like.
right.
Mhm.
And
And-
enjoy.
Mhm.
Give them time to
That are
read them.
age-appropriate.
Mhm.
And
So they're-
now that we have to have skills time for 45 minutes a day, they're not reading much at school.
Mhm.
There's not, I mean,
They're certainly
Where's
not
that-
reading at home either. Half
Well,
these
no.
kids,
Mhm.
so parents. could
and
care
I know
less.
5th grade's not because really all their time in the classroom, if they have time to read, they're reading Newsella and Read Theory.
All our second grade does is read all day long, and they come to the library every day.
Mm.
They'll check out 2 chapter
They
books
make it a part
and
of their
come back
skills
very
time.
excited.
And one
that's
of
all they
their
do.
rotations or whatever they call it, and one of them is accelerated reader. And so it's in spurts throughout the day. I'll have a little spurt of second grade. I'm like, oh, they must be doing skills.
Well, second grade has not really jumped back into AR yet because the books aren't labeled. Because it's harder for them to find the books.
Mhm.
You know, they're doing okay with the ones that have been labeled. So, you know, go get an orange dot or whatever. But we've lost every bit that we did with Cafe. When they were learning
Does
how to
Cafe
find,
even
when
No,
they,
around
that's why I
anymore?
don't think
Or
They
they-
got
Lexile
one
is
year
gonna
they
stay
do it,
around.
one year they don't, it seems like.
but
And
what
that's
they
like-
learned from that, when
Just
they
like
learned to
something.
find a
I'm killing
book
myself
Right.
with my book.
they could
A
read,
good
a
fit
good
book.
fit book,
Mhm.
Yeah.
they've lost every bit of good fit book. All that's gone again.
Yeah.
And
You know,
that was
even
not the
though-
concept. You know what you can read.
Yeah.
And we've taught you how to figure
Yeah.
that out. That was a great
right.
concept.
Well, I just think about when we were growing up and went to the library.
Well, there was none of
There was
that.
no
I know
AR,
there's
there's no
nothing.
Lexile, and we still learned how to read, and we
Yeah.
still.
We learned how to find books we liked.
Yes, that's what I don't get. Like,
Go to
where is
Barnes
all
and
this
Noble or
level
something. You're
stuff
not looking
coming
for
from?
levels.
Like,
Right.
You're
when
looking
did
for
it start?
choice.
Where did it come from? Probably from California, because it usually comes from the west and works
Way
its way
east.
east.
Which is quite funny because California, you know, most of those schools don't even have a librarian.
Yes,
Lord.
yes. Well, and if
So,
the boss gets her way, we may not be around.
well,
That's a whole nother story.
That's a
We
whole
won't get into
topic.
that.
but the thing I have with Lexile, the problem I have is that really at this point, I'm like, I don't like the way Lexile has come up with their numbers. It doesn't have anything to do with the content of the book. And really, I'd rather use AR levels than Lexile because AR at least makes sense.
Yes, I agree.
Those numbers make more sense. And all I'm doing with the labeling right now is I have printed labels from Destiny
Mhm.
after purchasing the Follett label stock because you can't print them that way on any other label
Label.
stock.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's fun too. But anyway, and I'm just putting them inside the back cover of the book. I'm not putting anything on the front of the book.
Right.
And if I could get away with it, I'd really rather just not even put a color on them, which maybe the color on the lowest levels, but that's it. I mean, I don't know, having the blue dot or the green dot or the
Right.
whatever. And if you start looking at it by Lexile, it's too many colors.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
You're using colors for too many things and it'll confuse.
Well,
Mine
it,
are
it,
just
it does, and really I want to genreify. And so then I'm going to have, which I have made my own
Yeah.
genre labels
Okay.
because I have so many spine labels, blank spine labels. So I'm just using those. But I'm thinking put that on there, and then you're going to put another color something on. I mean, just
Yeah,
it's
it's
too
too
much.
Too much.
It's
Yeah.
too much.
I think
It's too much.
inside the book makes a lot of sense.
Well, inside the book for that,
Right.
the numbers
exact
itself,
level,
I
yeah.
think, and those labels actually they have Lexile and AR on the same label.
Mhm.
So hopefully everything will need for the next 15
Yeah,
years.
until the next.
Until the
grade.
next new thing
Hey,
comes
hopefully we'll be
along.
retired by then.
I'll be
but-
gone by then. Until the next thing comes along, these
Right.
labels should do it. And it's I have printed them all, and I've started one shelf I have done, and I'm like, okay, I like that. I think those will be good, and I think they'll be helpful.
Yeah.
And maybe it can lessen time for some kids to find books that need to find one within a certain range. But I just got to get teachers to understand that even within AR and STAR reading, once you've taken that STAR reading test, the Lexile level it gives you, the ZPD, is pretty large.
Mhm.
Use it.
Well,
Give them a range.
Use it.
they write 2 or 3 levels. Some teachers write 2 or 3 levels
Oh, and
on
then-
their
and then
folder,
they're-
and that's
Three.
3, and that's all. And I'm like,
Why do
oh,
they
it
just
drives
do
me
it?
nuts. I'm like, you're
My
killing
second grade.
them.
Are they like that?
They're the only ones that are like they have to be within this.
Mhm.
All the other grade levels are fine with
And I've tried
if
to.
you're on a second
Can
grade
they
reading
get on
level or
there
just
now
use a
that
second
second
grade
grade-
book.
Can
You
they get
know?
on there now that the county is kind of facilitating this and block the levels like mine did last year?
Oh.
Got in there and would block the
So they
ranges.
could, yeah, so
if
they
the
couldn't
kid
take a
went to
test.
Take a test that,
Have they done that?
yeah,
Oh,
or,
mine have.
yes.
They put blocks
Mhm.
on it. Now I understand
You
you might
should be
block
able to
a
do
first
that by
grade
school.
book for a 5th grader. You
Well,
don't
no, the
want a
teachers
fifth
can do
grader
that
But I
to
think,
take
I
Yeah,
think my
the
second
teachers
grade.
can-
That's what she's
teachers,
saying.
some
Yeah.
two of them
Okay.
have
Yeah.
that.
Well, that's what I mean. The second grade at my school does that
Hmm.
because
Which infuriates me because, like, let's say a kid's reading all the Clifford books and they're first and second grade, and their range stops at 1.9, and they get that Clifford that's a 2.0, but the
Mm.
teacher's got them blocked out, and they
well, they
can't.
can always override it
And they
if
can.
they need to.
They
but
can.
it-
And I
it's-
But they probably
But I
won't.
have
Yeah.
kids coming up to me and going, Miss Copeland, this is on my level when it ends at 1.9 and this is a 2.0. I'm like, I'm sure your teacher.
It's nuts.
That is
That's
so close. I'm sure that they will allow you to take that
Yeah.
test, but I shouldn't have to have those
I know. And
conversations.
see,
Yeah.
they don't understand. I stood up in a faculty meeting because I felt led in my spirit that I needed to have this
Preach it.
conversation with my staff. Well, later I was reprimanded, but that's okay because it was meant to be said. And I stood up and I told them, you're killing these children. You're
Mhm.
killing their love of reading.
Their
You
spirit,
do not
their-
see their face like what
Mhm.
you were just saying. I see their face and I got teary eyed because it breaks my heart.
Mhm.
They come in and they find a book. Now,
Mhm.
last year they hated reading, but I have worked on them and worked on them and worked on them until they love reading now. So they come in and they found this book and this is awesome. And then they open it or look at the spine and, oh, my teacher wouldn't let me read this. I
She's
can't.
gonna
It's not my
she's gonna
level.
make
I
you
can't
come
take a
in.
test.
Mhm.
And then they're brokenhearted.
Mhm.
I'm brokenhearted.
I tell
Well-
them from the beginning, you don't have to take a test on that.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Well,
too.
that's- and
You
that's
can
why,
just read
I
it.
have
You
been
don't have to
lucky.
take a quiz.
I mean, my teachers, I go, when I went to
Worry
checking
about
out
that
3
test.
books,
That's how I feel.
that's what I
I
told
know.
them. That 3rd book was for the whatever you
Yeah.
want it to be.
Good.
Fun book.
That-
Well, and I tried that last year, or the year before, was like, they're getting one book for fun, and then the other book, can be for the AR. And then the teachers come in there, oh, no, they're not doing that. They need 2 for the AR test. They're not getting any books for fun. If they meet their goal, then they can get some books for fun.
Then
So
you
they
tell them they get
bought
3.
everything that I do. And then,
This is my media.
I know.
I'm gonna run it the
If
way
I
I
want
want
them
to.
to
Yeah.
get 5 books for fun,
When
I'm
you go
gonna
to
let
school
them.
and get your media degree,
Right.
then you can
well, I
decide.
want to because then the kid comes in. Well, my teacher said I need to check out 4 books, and I said, well, is your teacher going to come in here and shelve all 4 of those books? If you're going to read them, have them. But you have some of those
Yes.
kids that really are just piddling. They just want to come back and
Yeah.
forth. They're not even reading the book.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're supposed to get 2, and I'll let them get 3 and 4. Some kids, if they want to, they're avid readers. I don't want to stop them from that.
Yeah.
But like last year, We had a kid. Oh, I see his face. He's went on to middle school. Bless his little heart.
Oh.
That child could literally pick up anything and read it and understand it. He's brilliant. He's gifted. He can read. So why are you trying to limit him?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's beyond
Controlling.
AR.
He's
He's beyond all that
He's
stuff.
reading for pleasure.
And that's
Yeah.
what I was.
And that's what we want.
And
I mean,
that's what I was
isn't that
trying
the
to tell
purpose of
them.
it?
Leave that kid alone. Leave him alone.
Well, you know, I haven't run in because like I said, I haven't had enough teachers to really get into ARD and to go back to the
How long were
goals.
y'all not doing ART?
We were not doing AR for 5
So it's been
years.
long enough.
It's been a
That's
long
even
time.
better.
We had
Teachers.
We had
Maybe
reading
revolve.
counts for 1 year, but reading counts didn't have nearly the number of books that had quizzes.
Yeah.
You know, and basically, even as they used reading counts, it was more of a let's take one quiz a week kind of
Mhm.
thing, not really pushing them to go beyond. And, you know, they haven't really gotten out of that mindset. So they're still not really pushing them to go beyond, which is not a bad thing because at least it means that we're not focused on points. We're not focused on specific, you got to get 25 points for your goal. We don't have point clubs or any of that stuff. There's no end of the 9 weeks rewards or any of that
No,
stuff.
we still have that, but I don't do it.
I don't do
Teachers
that
do.
either. I put that all on them.
Yeah.
years
Well,
ago.
and that's
I should have done
that will not be mine anyway. Even if it does come back, that will be the grade levels, and they can do it.
Now, I do recognize a reader of the month. Whoever has the most words read in each grade level, I do a boy and a girl and recognize them.
Well, and looks like that's what
Yeah, she
Jessica
does
does,
a
something
reader
like,
hall
and
of
I think
fame.
that's a great thing. I mean, that's a great way
I think you've sent me that stuff
to
before.
encourage
Words.
participation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do a
Without-
million word club at the end of the year. If they've reached a million words and they have a certain
And you
quiz
just run,
average,
you just run that
We-
accelerated reader report that
Yes.
does words.
Yeah, I do that
and then
too.
we rent. Well, the pink limo part of the
Oh, okay.
deal with them is when we do the fundraiser at the beginning of the year with them, they agree that they will let us use the pink limo for the million word club at the end of the year. So we
Where do you
usually only
take
have
them?
like 10 or 12.
Where do you take?
For the past couple of years, we've been going to Red Robin,
Okay. Just a fun place.
last year they quit like paying for our kids. They usually would comp us like for the kids, and last year
Oh,
they
Red
said
Robin
they
quit.
wouldn't do it anymore.
Hmm.
Before that,
Oh,
we did
that's a
Logan's,
shame.
and Logan's did the same thing, and that's why we went to Red Robin. So now I have to find another restaurant.
And you probably could. There's-
But we ended up paying for it like out of ice cream money,
Mhm.
and it wasn't. I mean, because it's only like 10 or 12 kids, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not
I like
that
that.
much. So we could really pay for it. It wouldn't be a big deal, but I mean, we usually have at least one second grader to go.
Oh.
And I think we may have 2 or 3 this year because they.
I don't know.
Read
I
it.
just worry
That's all
about the
they're doing.
limiting on the Lexile, and I worry about using Lexile numbers.
So,
So what did Karen have to say? when
Okay,
you
so
told me?
let's get to
So-
that.
Karen, that's the main
So,
thing we wanted to hear.
Yeah. So I was able to share with Karen some of just the concerns, about numbers and stuff. And she said that a couple things. One thing she said is that with the, where it says kindergarten at 350 Lexile,
Mhm.
was it third at 650 and then fifth at 850? I forget what it is. She said, first of all, know that that's what we're calling a stretch goal. And basically with CCRPI, they want 5th grade to be at 850. And that's how you are able to get
You do
your
100
points.
points
Yeah.
less each
And so
grade.
basically they just broke it down. And so what she said it's really all about balance in that you shouldn't be pushing, for that it has to be in a certain range and say that that's the only thing that you can read. She said it really needs to be a balance of interest. She said we do want to keep pushing rigor but to find
Yeah.
a way that makes sense
Mhm.
for your students, for your teachers, so that they're increasing the rigor of what they're reading, but not to get so hung up in it's kind of exactly what you're saying.
Well, but she needs to communicate that to the
Yeah.
principal.
Yeah.
But
So
here's the-
here's
here's the thing.
here's the-
Within what she is saying,
Mhm.
the increase of rigor should be in instructional reading material. It should not be
Mhm.
in independent
Yeah,
reading material.
Mm,
What
That's
they
a
are
good
reading-
point right there now.
What
So-
they are reading independently
Should be their own thing.
Yeah.
should not have to be
Rask
within
kids.
that.
So basically,
That's
what she said with that is that she said no, she said, I've been telling people this. And, but she said it's really up to the principal too, of how he wants or she wants it done in that school. And so after a meeting yesterday, I talked with Dr. Corley and I said, okay, so I'm trying to figure out this whole Lexile thing and how to really, and Karen even said that. She said, we've got to increase the love of reading. And so she is
We're
not
not doing
going,
it, you know,
I
like
know.
we're
Doing
still-
it this way.
Mhm.
so know that what's coming out of her office is not this strict way, you know, that has to be done. It's, we want to have rigor. So we want you to have a goal. Yeah, you know, I would probably do best if I lost, 10 pounds. My daughter's getting married in the fall. So it might be best if I lose, 5 pounds by this month. And, so it's a goal. It's
But I
it's
think
going
the
to stretch
goals
me.
need to be realistic. Otherwise, we're setting our kids up for failure.
Well, what she,
And with kindergarten level being what it is,
Yeah.
our principal has said that our kindergartners have to know the 220 sight words by the end of the year, and our first graders have to know 1,000 sight words by the end of the year.
And that's not realistic
It's
developmentally.
right.
I mean,
And
developmentally,
it has
they're not
stressed
ready
our
for that.
teachers out. Our teachers are like going home crying over
Yeah.
this.
And if they are, imagine how the
And
children
why,
feel.
why is she pushing that? Did someone tell her that at a meeting?
She
does
said
she
in
just-
order for them to get to the Lexile level that the county has set, the goal, that's what they're going to have
Well,
to
see,
do.
evidently
Well, what they
Karen
don't
has not
see-
expressed to those principals.
She said
the
it's
way
a
she
big-
did.
It's a stretch goal. And when I talked to Dr. Corley yesterday, he said, yeah, we just had a meeting. So they just had a principal's meeting yesterday. Karen spoke to them again. And he talked about that she mentioned a range, that you have a range. And yeah, you're not going to necessarily, all be there
Mhm.
at this place. But what we're going towards is 5th grade, so that, and usually when you get to middle school, the kids are doing better, with that goal, but they're just really trying to look. The other thing Dr. Corley said was that our school is like the guinea pig for how does Star Reader determine Lexile and how do milestones determine Lexile, and do they match?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so they're
Well,
going
but
to be
Julie looked at a lot of that last summer. She looked at the schools that were already using Star Reading, and those, and she looked at what the milestones
Mhm.
said.
Right.
She looked at our school and Atkinson, which we were using SRI at the time,
Okay.
and how those matched. And that's why they chose Star Reading, because it came closer to the milestones than SRI did.
But it's still not.
Yeah.
Lexile levels and
Well, they're not going to be. It's
AR
a
levels
different.
are not the same.
Well-
even though Renaissance
No,
Even though they're
learning
saying
will
it is.
say
No,
it is.
But
Yeah.
but from Julie's analysis that she did last summer, it was determined that Star is going to be closer to
Yeah.
than SRI would have been. Than had they chosen to use reading inventory instead. So there again, it may not be exact, but nothing's going to be.
Right.
Because you're talking about with the milestones, you're talking about a test they took one day.
Right. Yeah. And how can you really? But and one thing I mentioned to him, I said, I think we just need to have a faculty conversation about how to really promote the love of reading and how to look at the connection of kids being able to check out books that they're interested in, and what role does, kind of what you mentioned, what role is what's taught in the classroom and the rigor that's there, and what role is the library? Is it a place where people can pursue interests? And he knows about my idea with the clusters, and he's like, yeah, just like they could go to your your cluster, your interactive center. And he said, wouldn't it be great if there were multiple levels of book, meaning that a kid could look at the trucks and they could say, oh, wait a minute, good fit book. This is one I can read.
Well, and that goes back to cafe too. One of the criteria is if it's a good fit too, is it something I'm interested in?
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So I guess the problem with that is the teachers would have to have enough books or reading material available in their room to be able to fit their instructional
Hey, come on in.
needs, and that might not be.
Yeah.
Realistic.
Did you need something?
I do.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Sure.
This is Bryson's mother.
Oh,
And
hi.
she would like to check out some books for Bryson to read over the long weekend. Is that
Perfect.
Possible?
Yes. Yes. Wonderful.
Is there anything?
Yeah, they can just look around and see, and then I'll go over there and help you because I've got one of the computers here. But you know what to do. Yes. Pajama day. Can you do? Yeah. So, I think, and he was all for that. He's like, you're right. We need to have that conversation. with the classroom teachers. And I know we use the RAS Kids reading A to Z, et cetera.
Yeah, we're doing
And
that.
so there's a lot of,
Kids hate it though.
really?
Well, I think, at our school, some of the kids like it, some of the kids,
Yeah.
it's
I've
all
heard
mixed.
Mixed
reviews.
things.
I've heard that's what the county is going to for our reading series. Rather than buying a new reading series, we're going to be using RISE Kids.
Okay.
Which to me seems like a lot of wasted copy paper as you're having to print off the books and stuff. But
Yeah, you're right. And Karen mentioned something about that. She said that by printing things off, then the kids are able to annotate in it and just,
Well, and it has like, and they can annotate online, using things online with it too,
Yeah.
but
he said they're really pushing nonfiction, part of the rigor.
everything has been pushing nonfiction, and honestly, I can tell you now, I have, for 14 years, every time I let him, there gets to be a certain point in the fall when, after getting picture books for weeks, I'll let kindergartners get some nonfiction books.
Yeah.
There are kids who would never, ever go back to, they would never go back to stories.
Mhm.
So it's funny that you have to push nonfiction
because I love it.
when
They
that's
do.
what they want to read most of the
Right.
time.
I
mean,
agree.
I don't know why that seems to be something that you have to push.
Yeah.
I think the reason they're having to push it is because they haven't actually taught kids they haven't taught the strategy, like
Right.
S23R, where you had the survey question. I
Right.
mean, they don't teach that.
Yeah, and I think that background knowledge is big with nonfiction. That before we even get into the text structure, it's okay. Let's look and see what it is we need to know with some concepts. So, yeah.
Well, I've got some that, when they're in third grade, that's about the year where they're usually, some second graders are transitioning into chapter books and stuff. Well, at the beginning of this year, I had a teacher that they're all getting chapter books. There are no more picture books, only chapter books.
Oh no.
And I'm like, okay, well, you've got someone reading on a first grade level. There's not really a lot of chapter books on a first grade level because their brain is not ready for
Yeah.
a
They don't
chapter
have the
book.
stamina for it.
They don't
Well,
have the
that-
stamina. It's like they want to put so many controls
Right.
over them.
That's
And
what kids
again,
need to
they're
read.
killing them. They're killing their love of reading.
Not to mention the fact that there are many, many picture books that will fit that vocabulary that they need to know in that grade level.
Right.
It's just not.
Well, and the thing with this too, I feel like, and I don't know if it's been like this at y'all school, but well, maybe. I feel like, okay, we're supposed to be the experts, and I don't feel like I'm an expert half the time, but I feel like we know a lot about kids reading and a lot about what they like and a lot about what they're doing. And when we see some things that are wrong and we, try to speak up against, it's like nobody has really asked us, nobody surveyed us. What do you
Right.
feel about these Lexile levels?
Right.
Nobody's really done
Nobody's
that.
even brought us in and talked to us about what we're doing as a county and and how this will affect
Right.
students' independent reading.
Mhm.
I mean, really,
Right.
that's another hard thing, I think. And I know, when Lexile first came into the schools, several years ago, and then back when my daughter was sixth grade at Arnold, Cynthia had to fight that same battle with her teachers about telling kids they had to read books that were a certain level.
She probably said, I don't have that many.
That's what she
that
told
are
them,
that
that are
high."
that are appropriate. She was like,
Yes, they're not
when you
gonna
get to those
understand.
higher levels, she
Yeah.
said those are books that are not appropriate for sixth
They're
graders.
not ready for.
And that's what I'm trying to
You know,
tell
the
them too.
content is not there.
Right.
you know.
That's why I have a
It's the same
separate
thing.
section reserved just for fourth and fifth grade.
Well,
That's right.
the other thing that if you've ever gone through any, we had AR's Renaissance Youth online training for a couple of months, so I got to go through all of their online stuff. Really was much more detailed than anything I'd ever gone through with AR before. If you would push the length of the books rather than the difficulty level with these upper level readers, if you see that they're reading all half point books, picture books and whatever, well, then instead of saying go get books that are, fourth grade level and up or whatever in third grade, why don't you tell them to read chapter books?
Longer chapter
Longer
books too,
books.
not the little
And don't
beginning
make
readers.
it, don't tell them it has to be done in a week.
Right.
Or in a day.
Or a day.
Yeah.
Make
2 chapter books a day. I swear. 2 chapter books a day. Second grade. They're coming every day. 2 chapter books. Because all they do is read all day long. They don't teach.
Oh,
Well,
Which
so I don't have that problem.
Really?
I love that they're reading, but when my
Yeah.
baby's going to be in second grade next year, it makes me worry because
right.
I want him to
Well,
be
see, we
learning
also have,
too.
we
you
also
know?
have the cue card system now, so our kids can't just go everywhere.
But, so I think this
Oh, we might be getting that next year.
chance to be able to have a conversation with key faculty members, to me, I think is going to really help me figure out for here how we want to do this, and if we want this to be a high interest space for books, or if we want to have the levels, how can we do it so they can come in, do the good fit, see whether that works, be pleased with the book instead of, no,
It's not on my level.
You
Right.
need to like the Mino librarian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I kind of like,
You know
what
what?
you've said
We're
about,
not the mean one.
That's true.
I know.
It's not our goals.
it
It's
is,
not.
it
Because I
is.
tell them, quick, baby, if you want to read that book,
Then
go
read
for
it. I know.
But you don't have to take a test.
That's right. But I like what, I've never thought about that before, but maybe we need to have a conversation with them about, like you were saying, instructional reading, independent reading.
Well,
I've
just a
never really,
reminder that these books that you're checking out in the library, this is independent reading. And anything that you look at and read will tell you that independent reading, it should be a little bit lower level than your instructional
Mhm.
reading. What you can instruct them at should be higher
Mhm.
than what they
Because
are
you're
reading.
doing it with them.
Right.
well, in the AR 360s, all those articles on there. I mean, they were supposed, well, we do, and I guess they're doing it. I don't know. I mean, they're supposed to be assigning articles and stuff. I mean, that's good enough for their Lexile. Let them read a higher one of those little articles. I mean, and that's
And then let their independent reading be what they get from the media center.
right.
Well, so with Read Theory, they read articles and they quiz on them. And so guess what the kids do? They read article after article, quiz after quiz. They might do 5 in a day or whatever. And so then, the teacher has to catch that and converse with them about what they're doing. Same as when they used to come to the library over and over again and taking, 6 or 7 quizzes a day.
Oh yeah, no.
It's the same thing. It's just that instead of,
Does your principal not see that?
She didn't know anything about. She said we're seeing growth, so I can't tell them.
so
to stop.
therefore it's okay.
Are they teaching all the standards and the other subjects?
They make packets for work. And that's what the kids do.
What's the teacher do? Sit on her butt?
Every time I go to their rooms, they're at their desk. Every single time.
Oh, my goodness.
I've not once been in there and they've been teaching. Not once.
I don't have that somewhere.
They're out in their own
We had a
building.
very strong, so Cheryl was,
Good.
but
Yeah,
Tier was
awesome.
our second grade team. She was incredible. They were all great. They're all great.
Let me just say one thing.
They
and
read
then-
a lot.
3
They-
and 2 are retiring next year. So
Well,
and we're
and
gonna have
that's
4
probably
next year. So we're gonna get
That's
3
probably
new.
a
So
lot.
hopefully that will help.
Let me say one more thing, then I'll close this out. just
Okay.
'cause, the last thing was what Joe emailed me, that she thought it'd be great to have a Google either classroom or shared folder where we can just plop our lessons in or ideas in.
Well, we hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
I know.
And so will you
Yeah, I'll
create?
set it up and
Okay.
then we can just.
And share it with us.
Just share it.
Yeah.
Do y'all want to do a folder or do you want to do a Google Classroom? So it's more like
Ooh.
Facebook where you can like even post links and things.
I kind of like that too. Maybe both.
Okay.
Just do both.
Do that.
All right. So Joe's going to take care of that. And that is the end of this meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye.